Okay, this was the trig functions practice that we did in class on Thursday, February 28th. So the first 6 problems want us to find the value of each trigonometric ratio. So the first one is asking us about the cosine of C. And the first thing I want to do, so we're looking at angle C, is I want to label my diagram, especially if I'm not really sure what I'm doing. I'm not very confident with what I'm doing. Okay, we're looking at angle C. So we have hypotenuse, opposite, and adjacent. So label the hypotenuse first. The hypotenuse is across from the right angle. So angle B is our right angle. So across from the right angle is the hypotenuse. And then our two legs, AB and BC, we're going to put adjacent or opposite. So adjacent means next to. Okay, and then opposite, across from. So if it's across from angle C, it's the opposite leg. If it's adjacent to angle C, it's the adjacent leg. Okay, so we have hypotenuse. 29 is hypotenuse, 20 is the adjacent side, and 21 is the opposite side relative to angle C. So we want the cosine of C. So cosine is adjacent over hypotenuse. Right? Cosine, is adjacent over hypotenuse. So we want adjacent, which is 20, and hypotenuse, which is 29. Okay? So adjacent over hypotenuse is cosine. Right? You input the angle measure, and then it's going to give you an output, which is a ratio of the adjacent side over the hypotenuse. Okay, number 8 here, it wants the cosine of A, so I'm looking at angle A. I want to label my diagram, label my triangle, so the hypotenuse is across from the right angle. The opposite leg is across from the angle we're looking at. So this is our opposite is 30, and adjacent meaning next to, so the leg that's next to the angle is the adjacent angle. Okay, we're dealing with cosine. So cosine is the cosine of the angle is going to be equal to the adjacent leg over the hypotenuse. So the adjacent leg is 16. Hypotenuse is 34. The next one, let me scroll up so we see it entirely. Okay. Number 9 here. Okay, we're looking at the cosine of C, so we're looking at C. Looking at C, let's label our diagram. Across from the right angle is the hypotenuse. Okay, adjacent to angle C is the adjacent leg. Right, next to the leg that's next to angle C is the adjacent, and then the leg across from C is going to be opposite. It's cosine again. So cosine is adjacent over hypotenuse. So the adjacent leg is 40. The hypotenuse is 41. Number 10, we have tangent of Z. So we want to look at angle Z. Okay, we know across from the right angle is our hypotenuse. Okay, then we have our two legs, 20 and 21. 20 is next to angle Z, so that's the adjacent leg. Then across from Z is our opposite leg. Okay, tangent is opposite over adjacent. So opposite is 21, adjacent is 20, so our ratio is 21 for 20. All right, next one, 11, we have tangent of A, or dealing with angle A. So here's angle A. Okay, across from the right angle is the hypotenuse. Across from angle A is the opposite side, the opposite leg. And the leg next to angle A is the adjacent leg. So adjacent. Tangent is opposite over adjacent. So the opposite side is 30. The adjacent side is 40. Okay, we can reduce this fraction if we want. 2, 3 over 4. If we divide the numerator and denominator by 10 each, we will get 3 over 4. Or you can leave it as 30 over 40. Nothing in the question tells us we have to reduce it. Okay. Cosine, if it specifies, if it says we want the fraction in the simplest form, then it would be 3 over 4. It's a 3, 4, 5 triangle. All right, number 12, cosine of x. Okay, across from the right angle is the hypotenuse. Across from the angle we're looking at is the opposite leg. And next to the leg next to the angle is the adjacent side. Okay, cosine is adjacent over hypotenuse. So we have adjacent is 21, hypotenuse is 29. So if you struggle, label your triangle first. Look at the equations right in your notes. If you see tangent, you know tangent is opposite over adjacent. So if you labeled correctly, all you got to do is pick the opposite and the adjacent, make a fraction, make a ratio out of it. Cosine is adjacent over hypotenuse. Sine, we didn't see an example of sine, but sine would be opposite over hypotenuse. Find the missing sides. Okay, so in these, we have to determine which function, sine, cosine, or tangent, that we're going to use. Okay, and then solve for x. So the way I want to do this is again, we're looking at 38. Okay, let's label our sides. We will have x is the hypotenuse, and 17. Okay, so these are the two legs. 17 is across from 38, so this is going to be our opposite side, and then this would have been our adjacent side. Okay, but what we have information on is hypotenuse and opposite. So opposite is 17, and the hypotenuse is x, opposite is 17. So if we look at our functions, we have sine is opposite over hypotenuse, cosine is adjacent over hypotenuse, and tangent is opposite over adjacent. So which one has opposite and hypotenuse? That's going to be sine. So we want to use the sine function. So sine of 38. So the input is 38. The output is the ratio of the opposite to the length of the opposite side to the hypotenuse. So that's 17 over x. Then we got to solve for x. Multiply both sides by x. These x's cancel out. Okay, and then we can divide both sides by sine of 38. Okay, then we get x equals 17 divided by sine 38, which gives us, I don't remember. Let me pull the calculator out. So 17 divided by sine 38 gives us 27.6. So once, nope, doesn't matter. 27, I'm just going to round to the nearest tenth place. Okay, so 27.6. Yeah, that's 13. 14. Okay, we have, look at 52. The hypotenuse is across from the right angle, so 15 is the hypotenuse. Across from the angle we're looking at is the opposite side. And next to the angle we're looking at is the adjacent leg, the adjacent side. So what we have information on are the adjacent side and the hypotenuse. So if we look through our equation, sine, cosine, and tangent, the one that deals with the adjacent and hypotenuse is cosine. So we want to have cosine of 52 is adjacent over hypotenuse, so that's going to be x over 15. We need to multiply both sides by 15. 15. Okay, these are going to cancel out. We get 15 times the cosine of 52 equals x. So we put it in the calculator, 15 times cosine of 52. We get 9.2 equals x. Um, 15 here. So we're looking at 22. Hypotenuse is across from the right angle. Opposite the right angle is, opposite the angle in question is the opposite side. So across from is the opposite side, and then next to is the adjacent side. Adjacent meaning next to, opposite meaning across. So we want to use we have adjacent. So the two that we have information, we don't have any information on the opposite side. We have information on the adjacent and the hypotenuse. So we again want to use cosine, because cosine is adjacent over hypotenuse. So cosine of 22 is going to equal the adjacent side over the hypotenuse. Okay, to solve for x, we got to get x by itself, so we need to get x out of the denominator, so we got to multiply both sides by x. These x's are going to cancel. We have x times the cosine of 22 equals 12. To get x by itself, we need to divide both sides by the cosine of 22. So x equals 12 divided by the cosine of 22, which is 12.9. 12.9. So x is going to be 12 points. All right, next one, we're looking at 26. The angle is 26, so across from the right angle is the hypotenuse. So x is our hypotenuse. Right next to the angle in question, the leg that's next to the angle is the adjacent side. And then across from 26 is our opposite leg, our opposite side. Okay. If we don't have any information on the adjacent side, we only have information on the opposite and the hypotenuse. So if we look through our functions, sine, cosine, and tangent, the one that is equal to, that deals with opposite and hypotenuse is going to be sine. So sine of 26 is going to equal opposite over hypotenuse. So opposite is 17, hypotenuse is x. Okay, we need to multiply both sides by x. So these cancel. We get x times the sine of 26 equals 17. We divide both sides by sine of 26. We're going to get x equals 17 divided by sine 26 is 38.8. We round to 38.8. Okay, so x is 38.8. Next four are just like those four. So, yeah, 23, 24, 31, and 32 are the next ones I put on here. Okay. So, again, let's circle the one we want here. 48, hypotenuse is across from the right angle. Across from the angle in question is the opposite leg. And next to the angle in question is the adjacent leg. So we have information on opposite and adjacent. The trig function that deals with opposite and adjacent is tangent. Tangent of theta is opposite over adjacent. So tangent of 48 is going to be opposite, which is x, over adjacent, which is 14. So we have 14. We got to multiply both sides by 14 to solve for x. So 14 times the tangent of 48. Okay, so we get 14 times the tangent of 48 equals x. Okay, 14 times tangent 48 is 15.5. 15.5 equals x. Okay, next one. Here's our right angle. So across from it's the hypotenuse. We're dealing with 29. Across from 29 is the opposite side. Next to the 29 is the adjacent side. So we have information on opposite and adjacent. So just like the last one, we're going to want to use tangent. Tangent is opposite over adjacent. So tangent of 29 is going to equal x over 18. Multiply both sides by 18. That cancels. 18 times the tangent of 29 equals x. So 18 times tangent of 29 is 9.97. So that's going to be 10.0. 10.0 if we round to the tens place. All right. 31. Across from the right angle is the hypotenuse. Here's the angle in question. Across from that angle is the opposite leg. Next to that angle is the adjacent leg. Okay, we have information on the adjacent and the hypotenuse. So that's going to be the cosine of theta. So cosine of 64 is going to equal adjacent over hypotenuse. So that's 16 over x. We need to multiply both sides by x. So x times the cosine of 64 is going to equal 16. We've got to divide both sides by the cosine of 64. And we're going to get x equals, so 16 divided by cosine 64 is 36.5. 32. Across from the right angle is the hypotenuse. We're looking at angle 55 degrees. Across from that angle is the opposite side. Right next to it is the adjacent side. So we have information on opposite and hypotenuse. If we have opposite and hypotenuse, we want to use sine. Sine is opposite over hypotenuse. So sine of 55 is opposite is x, hypotenuse is 20. Okay, so if we multiply both sides by 20, these will cancel, and we get 20 times the sine of 55 equals x. Put that in the calculator, 20 times the sine of 55. Gives us 16.4. 16.4. 33 and 34 are asking for the length of x. So there's x. So I'm going to call the altitude here y. And I'm going to deal with this. That's a right angle. This is also a right angle. Okay. So I'm going to deal with this first triangle first. Okay. So this is, if we look at this triangle, here's the hypotenuse. This is the opposite side. And this is the adjacent. So we have information on the adjacent and the hypotenuse. So we're going to use cosine of 22. And that's going to equal adjacent, which is y, over the hypotenuse, which is 50. To solve for y, we're going to multiply both sides by 50. So we're going to get 50 times the cosine of 22. And put that in the calculator. 50 times the cosine of 22. 50 times cosine 22. 46.4 equals y. So we know the altitude here is 46.4. If I could get a dot big enough to represent a decimal point. All right. So now let's look at the second triangle. So this triangle here, we have another right triangle. Okay, so the angle is 41. So across from the right angle is the hypotenuse. The angle we have is 41. So this is going to become opposite. And the 46.4 becomes the adjacent. So here again, we have 46.4 in x. So we're going to want to do the cosine of 41 is going to equal adjacent, which is 46.4, over the hypotenuse, which is x. Multiply both sides by x. Okay, these cancel. We have x times the cosine of 41 equals 46.4. Okay, divide by cosine 41. We get x equals, so 46.4 divided by cosine 41 is 61.5. 61. So we had to find the altitude first using the first angle. Once we found that angle, we could do the cosine of 41 equals what we found in the first equation over x, the hypotenuse of the second triangle. Okay, number 34. Oops. Okay, same thing. So we have 25 degrees. We need to find y, which is the altitude. So it's the same thing here. We want to do cosine of 25. This is our adjacent leg. So again, this is a right angle. This is our hypotenuse. This is the opposite. And this is the adjacent. So adjacent is y. And it's going to be OY over 48. Multiply both sides by 48. These cancel. 48 times cosine of 25 is going to give us 43.5. 48 times the cosine of 25. Okay, so we know this is 43.5. Okay. We can use our next angle then. So here's our hypotenuse for the second triangle. Here's the opposite side. And then the 43.5 is the adjacent leg. So we have opposite is x, adjacent is 43.5. So we want to now use tangent. So the tangent of 59 degrees is going to be equal to the opposite, which is x, over 43.5. Okay, multiply both sides by 43.5. 43.5. These are going to cancel. And we get 43.5 times the tangent of 59, which is 72.4. 35, 36, 37, 30. I don't think I'm going to do all these. I'll do the first one. And then it was extra credit for you guys to finish the last three. All right, so I'm not going to do the last three. You guys got to do them on your own, but I will show you how to do them. Maybe I'll do 35 and 36, and then you guys can do. Well, no. We're just going to do the first one. All right, so area of so we want to find area of the triangle. So area is 1/2 base times height. So we need to find the base and the height of our triangle. Okay. So the base is the whole thing, and the height's here. To find the height, we can put an x here. Okay, we have this piece is 46. That's x. So this is our opposite side. That's our adjacent side. Here's our hypotenuse. So we can do tangent of 26 is going to equal x over 46. So we multiply both sides by 46. Okay. We're going to get, 46 times the tangent of 26 is 22.4. Okay, so we know the altitude here, the height of our triangle is 22.4. We can then find this piece right here, I'll call it y. Okay, so here's our hypotenuse. 22.4 is across from 37. Y is adjacent to 37. So we can use tangent again. So tangent of 37 is going to equal 22.4 over y. Okay, multiply both sides by y. Okay, so we get y times the tangent of 37 equals 22.4. We can then divide both sides by the tangent of 37. Okay, so y is going to equal 22.4 divided by 37. I'm sorry, the tangent of 37. 22.4 divided by the tangent of 37. We get 29.7. 29.7. So y right here is 29.7. So if we again look at our triangle, the height is 22.4. The width is going to be 46 plus 29.7. So 75.7. Right? Got to add these two pieces together to get the base of the whole thing, and then we can put it into our equation. 1/2, and the base is 75.7. The height is 22.4. So put that all in the calculator. So that times 22.4 divided by 2 is about 848. So the area is about 848. 850. Again, it depends on how you round it. Rounding can make a big difference here. So about 850 probably, somewhere in there, 848, 849, 850, depending on how we round it. So that's for 35. I'll do 36. Sure, I'll do 36, and then you guys can, again, if you want the extra credit, do 37 and 30. All right, so 36. So let's find the altitude here. Let's call it x. So we want to use 68. So 11 and x, that's opposite and adjacent. So that's tangent of 68 is going to equal 11 over x. Multiply both sides by x. Divide both sides by tangent of 68. Okay, so x is going to equal 11 divided by the tangent of 68. Okay, 4.4. So 4.4. Okay, and then we can find y, which is the other part of the base that we need. So tangent of 34 is going to equal opposite over adjacent. So opposite is 4.4. Adjacent is y. Multiply both sides by y. And then divide both sides by tangent of 34. Tangent 34. So we get y equals 4.4 divided by the tangent of 34. We get 6.5. Okay, so area 1/2 base height times height. So we have 1/2 the base, 6.5 plus 11. So 17.5. Right, our base is 17.5. Then the height we said was 4.4. So times 4.4. And then divide by 2, we get 38.5. Again, this is an estimate because rounding is an issue. So 38.5, somewhere around 38. 38.5. And you guys can do 37, 38. All right, so this was the second practice we did. Again, the first one had the same thing. So if you're good on this, again, this might be a little bit much, but I would focus on the first, 14 problems we did. If you can do those first 14, I think you're in pretty good shape. Okay, there's only a couple of more complicated ones on the test.